Yo, this is Dark, and here's a quick Mythic guide to Dawnbreaker! Starting off with the first area, you got the Nightfall Shadow Mages that will do Night Bolt, which is just their basic casting ability, but they will do Ensearing Shadows that will target a random player, cursing them, reducing their movement speed by 30% for 15 seconds, and also doing some shadow damage. After them, you got the Nightfall Curse Blade, which will do melee damage to the tank, but also casting Dark Blade, which is going to be imbuing their damage with Shadow, increasing their attack speed as well by 10% for 15 seconds. This effect stacks, but you could purge it off and possibly steal it. Yes. Upon reaching the airship, you'll also be fighting the Nightfall Commanders, which will be doing Tainted Slash, which is a stacking bleed on the tank. And then they'll also be casting Abyssal Howl, which will shield their allies. So make sure you're just taking care of the commander first, because he's going to be messing up the tank and buffing his homies. Last in this area, you got the Nightfall Ritualist that will do a Stygia Seed on a random player, which will be doing dot damage on you for 7 seconds and also exploding within 7 yards around you. So make sure you're not stacked on any of your teammates. They also have Tormenting Ray that will be cast on 3 players. It's a channel ability that cannot be interrupted. You want to just make sure you're popping a defensive cooldown if you need it. Or your healer's a G, one of the two. Once the airship has taken flight, you're going to be jumping on your flying mounts and going to the airships on the left and the right of the main ship, taking out the basic enemies that are there, planting bombs on those, blowing up the little airships, and going back to the main hub for the first boss fight. First boss, Speaker Shadow Crown. She'll spam cast Shadow Bolt, kick it when you're able to. For her Tank Buster, she's going to be doing Obsidian Beam on the tank. DKs, you already know, you want to AMS it. Everyone else, make sure you're popping a cooldown, and then it's going to be spawning multiple beams that will rotate around her, doing heavy damage if you're getting hit by them, so make sure you're moving with the beams. She'll also cast Burning Shadows, which is going to be a dot that slows and damages on a random player upon removal. That dot will turn into 4 new dots on the other players that will be healing absorption, so make sure you're ready for that healers when you're dispelling it. She'll also be casting Collapsing Night on a couple players, putting Void Zones on top of them. You want to make sure you're out of those circles because they're going to be there for 30 seconds. And tanks, you want to make sure you're moving the boss out away from them so you keep dealing with other mechanics without having to walk in them. And for her main ultimate mechanic on this, 50% and 1% health, she's going to be doing Darkness Comes, which is going to be the huge purple circle that's going to engulf the airship. So you want to get on your flying mount, fly away, grab the golden orbs around the area if you need more energy so you don't die out there, and just wait till that Darkness Comes expires and you get back on the boat and attack her again. And that's it for the Crown Lady. All right, after the first boss, you're going to be flying down to the city and killing the 3 mini bosses. For the mini bosses, I like going to the one at the house, the church, and then the inn. And each mini boss will be doing one mechanic that the main boss in this area will be doing, so we'll get you prepped for that. The mini boss in front of the house will be doing Shadow Decay. That's just a channel that does AoE damage to everyone in the party. For the mini boss in the church, they'll be using Terrifying Slam that will target the tank, put a big AoE circle around them. No one else wants to be in that. The mini boss in the inn will also do Dark Orb that will cast a huge dark ball that will shoot out. And if you're in that dark ball, it's going to be doing a heavy dot on you. So make sure you're out of it and avoiding it. And all the mini bosses will be doing Abyssal Blast that will do shadow damage at a target and pulse additional shadow damage for every 1 second for 12 seconds. And this effect stacks. So just make sure you are killing them efficiently. Starting with the trash in the city, you got the Nightfall Shadow Walkers that will be doing Umbral Rush that will be doing shadow damage twice to a random target. Nightfall Tacticians will be doing Black Edge. It's always going to be a frontal where the tank is tanking them, so make sure you're tanking them outside the group. And if you get hit by it, it's going to be doing shadow damage and also snaring you for 50% for 9 seconds. Nightfall Darkcasters will be doing Tormenting Beam just to 1 player now. Just a channel effect that will do shadow damage for 6 seconds. And then they also cast Umbral Barrier that you can't kick, but you can stun it to stop them from casting it. That will just be doing big absorption shield. Manifested Shadows do Abyssal Rod that will shoot beams at players. And then they will also do Black Hell, which will shoot out swirlies all over. So make sure you're dodging that. Then the spiders around the city will be doing Tacky Nova, which is a big AoE. You want to make sure you're out of it. They also have Silken Shell, so make sure you're kicking that. Then they'll shoot threads at a random player, pulling them in and doing heavy damage. Alright, the second boss, Anub Ikaji. Yeah, we'll go with that. So he'll be doing all those same abilities the mini bosses were doing, but they're all empowered now. Like Dark Orb will do the same thing as the mini boss, get bigger, shoot out At random players, if you're inside of it, it's going to be doing heavy dot damage, but this time it's going to also explode when it hits any objects, and the further it moves, the less damage it will do when it explodes. The Terrifying Slam on the tank will be the tank buster. Make sure you're popping the cooldown for it. Death Knight's AMS it, and you can also disadvance it so the knockback doesn't affect you, but anyone else who's in it will get feared. Yeah, Shadowy Decay, that's going to be doing a channel AoE damage. That's going to increase damage 10% every time it pulses, so make sure, healers, you are dealing with that and popping AoE cooldowns for everyone. Lastly, he'll be doing Animated Shadows, which will be summoning little void dudes that you want to just CC, group them up, and kill them all because they're going to just be shooting Shadow Bolt type abilities at every random player. Alright, that's it for the second boss. Now you want to move back up to the airship, get up there, and you'll be fighting one trash mob, the Nightfall Dark Architect. She'll be casting Tormenting Eruption on multiple players, doing shadow damage to that player, and also shadow damage to any players within 5 yards of the player's getting erupted on. Then she has her Night Bolt that will just cast on a random player. Just want to kick that if you're able to. And then she'll be doing Usher Reinforcements. It's going to be summoning some trash mobs that are the same mobs you've been dealing with. Death Knights, you can pull them in, stack them all up, and just CC and kill them all. Alright, final boss, Rashanan. So there's going to be 2 phases of this. In the first phase, you basically don't need to do damage, don't waste your cooldowns. You're wanting to survive, do the mechanics, pick up the barrels that are going to be dropped on the platform of the airship, and you're going to be tossing those barrels on top of them to do the damage. Make sure everyone's picking up these barrels. If there's one next to you, get it, because if they expire and explode without being on the boss, they're going to be doing heavy damage to the whole group and possibly wiping you. Now on Mythic, he's going to be doing Expel Webs, which is going to be shooting a line of swirlies at you. Just make sure you're dodging those and don't be on them. He'll also be doing Erosive Spray that's going to be doing AoE damage to everyone and also applying Lingering Erosion that can stack up, so make sure you're dispelling that as necessary and popping cooldowns if you need them. Rolling Acid's going to be the big green line that's going to be on one player, and it's going to be green on one side, and that's going to be where the waves are going to explode and roll to. Just make sure you're not putting it on your whole team. You want to make sure it's outside the group and not rolling in the group. When the boss is around 65% health, he's going to take off and start flying to the second phase location. You're going to want to follow him. You can grab all the orbs because you're going to get a debuff that you're going to keep on you. It lasts up to, I think, 25 seconds is the highest you get, but you have plenty of time. Just fly into the orbs and you'll be good. As of right now, you can actually fly straight from the airship to the second phase location with plenty of time and not die. So at the beginning of phase 2, he'll be casting Acidic Eruption and take no damage. And all the abilities are the same in phase 2, except for he adds Spinneret Strands, which is going to be casting a circle around a couple players. Upon expiration, that circle is going to leave a big circle of sticky webs that will slow in damage. So make sure if you have it on you, you're taken out of the group and not on top of the boss, so you have plenty of room to attack them. The players affected by the Spinneret's web will also be chained to the web. Basically, you want to walk out of that, breaking the web. But upon breaking the web, you're going to be doing AoE damage to the team, so make sure you're not breaking them all at one time. And this boss fight is actually over at 60% health, and then he flies to the raid where he goes and hides, and he's a little punk bitch. But that's it for the Dawnbreaker. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Peace, dude.